Hey everyone, welcome back to Business Casual with Mark and
Rob.
And we got Alfonso Quadra with us today from Wealth Genius. Woo!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where did we meet?
We met online. We did a Zoom call. We did a Zoom call.
Internet dating. We did some internet dating. Yeah.
And I really I loved everything that First of all, have you ever been on a Zoom with this man? He's got the triathlon.
That's all
medals.
Gone.
That's all gone. It was right.
Oh,
there.
that was right here. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that was like I was like
he was intimidated.
I'm like I could jog. But I really love the energy, and obviously, your name, in the industry, you're known, and so I respected that. And me, I'm always open to new friendships, new relationships. I love this. No one succeeds alone. That's kind of my motto, Like I'm more about building relationships and friendships.
Yeah, because obviously you've been investing for a very, very long
23
time.
plus years.
23, yeah. Longer than me.
Wow.
Not many people that I meet have been investing longer than me, because I'm about 20 years now.
Wow.
But like, you've built businesses, you've obviously grown a huge portfolio. You are building this huge education company now too. And you're doing new developments in Ontario. You're just covering the gambit.
Yeah. Well, you know what? At some point, I was on a podcast. I think it was on a podcast, and someone said, "Oh, my friend learned real estate from you. Oh, my other friend. Oh, it's almost like you're the Godfather, of real estate." Which means it's like I've been around a while, right? They should call me the grandfather, the grandfather of real estate.
I was thinking great grandfather, but I mean,
yeah. So what happens with longevity is you have experience, right? And there's a lot of coaching programs out there, but what I like to call, what I've built, is a mentorship program, because mentorship is the transfer of experience versus the transfer of information. Anybody can learn something and regurgitate it, but are they speaking from experience? I was talking to an agent a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, "Oh, it's so slow now." And I was like, no, not really. We're kind of back to how things were back in 2019. Yeah. And he's like...
I think other than pricing, 2014, you can get accepted offers, you can actually go see a bunch of houses. It's great.
And so what he tells me is like, oh, I wasn't an agent in 2019.
Yeah, 100%.
And so some of the the people and you want to tap into experience, because I've gone through the bubble. Like the tech bubble, early 2000s. I remember what it was like, and I remember the correction after 9/11, like 2001, 2009, of course, and that experience, you take it with you. It's worth a lot. It's worth millions and millions if you can tap into someone else's experiences.
Billions if you do it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Alfonso, a lot of people know you in the community. Why don't we rewind a little bit? 23 years is a long time. Like, what got you started? Why did you get started? And to get to where you're at today?
Alfonso has probably the best backstory of any speaker out there right now. So why don't you do a quick backstory? Because I've heard you go on for about an hour on it. And we don't need that, because that's the whole podcast.
I can do the 3-day version.
Yeah, we don't need the 3-day version.
No, I'll give you the cliff notes. So I came to this country as a refugee. I was in 2 wars back home.
And home is where?
El Salvador, Central America. I had a tough issue integrating into the education system here, mostly because there was a lot of gaps in my learning. I didn't go to school traditionally like a lot of kids, since I was in a country of war, no opportunity to go to school. And eventually I got frustrated, ended up dropping out of high school, ended up living on the streets, homeless, high school dropout, and then I had a life-changing moment when I was 17. I became a dad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, changed my life, changed everything, changed the trajectory of my life. Started a business at 17. By the time I was 21, that business was grossing in the millions. Was doing really well, like any 21-year-old. The good thing to do is spend all the money. That's what I did, and had some lessons. So 24, I'm negative $1 million. And now I started to realize I had no financial literacy. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I went on this quest to learn about finances, financial freedom, wealth. And that's how kind of my beginnings into real estate kind of happened, and I discovered that, hey, real estate is the vehicle that all wealthy people participate in order to create generational wealth. And that's what I wanted.
A lot of wealthy people hold their money in real estate.
Yeah, that's where you preserve your capital, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure when this is going to air, but yesterday, a big bank went down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah.
SVB.
Yeah, and so this is for the past couple of months, I've been telling people, listen, 2023 is going to be shown in history as the year of the most opportunity. There's going to be a massive shift, and now more than ever, the average person has the ability to create wealth. And we have never, what's going to happen is going to be a lot of pain for some, but it's going to be open up a lot of opportunities for others.
Well, you're going to see who's swimming naked, that's for sure. The tide's going out.
Yeah, when the tide goes out, you find out who's been swimming naked, right? And unfortunately, you will see a lot of blood on the floor, but it shouldn't scare anybody from taking action, because if you take the right actions now, people in the next 5 years are going to be asking you, how did you do it? How did you know? And so this is a time of opportunity. This is a time of action. And so I know this because I've gone through the way I created my wealth has been through downturns, has not been through, the expansion phases in the market.
I love that you bring that up.
And so, I've always built the portfolio. I mean, I'm always consistently purchasing, but there's times where there's acquisition mode, full force, 100, right? And there's times where you have to be careful, right? You can make money.
You have to be more strategic.
Yeah, exactly.
Stabilize.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the times that I live for. Back in April of 2020, if people are watching this or they're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can go back to April of 2020, where I just told everyone, go buy anything you can get your hands on. What would you tell yourself if you can go back from today, knowing what you know, to talking to yourself in 2020, April of 2020? What would you say to yourself?
Well, it's a funny question because that's where I had much of my success.
Yeah.
Was right through COVID. The day before they shut everything down, the world got all that scarcity, I had waived conditions on a property. And then once I saw the opportunity, because I had some experience, I went full force right through into 2021. So I, like you, agree with you here. This is another great opportunity.
Yeah, we can put links from my YouTube channel because it started basically 3 years ago. So during COVID, and I said, go buy.
Yeah.
You'll make $100,000 on this property in 6 months.
And multiple strategies too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There was so many different strategies that you could use at that time. Because,
Everybody was fearful.
Yeah.
And that was the time to be greedy.
Yeah.
And again, people are fearful right now.
And this is now the time to be a little bit greedy.
Yeah, what is that? Is it the fear monitor or whatever that
Fear
is?
greed index.
Yeah, the fear greed index. I mean,
I love it.
today it was like really far left in that extreme fear aspect of things. And I remember.
Good day to put in offers, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Although bond rates got killed, and so
Sub-threes.
money's cheaper. So
Yeah, for that reason,
Yeah.
right? Because now they're like, oh, maybe we went too far. You see, the problem is the interest rates are a lever,
yeah, 100%.
and they're using the wrong lever, right? They're trying to stabilize the inflation, and from the longest time since the 40s, that inflation we could balance it out with this lever, up and down interest rates. And we discovered what happened when they removed the gold standard from the dollar, and all of a sudden inflation just went crazy through the 80s. This is why people were paying 20% interest rates. And so, they've always used this lever to manage inflation and the economy. The problem is right now we have a supply chain issue still, right? People forgot about China's still in lockdown.
Well, they're
right?
not now, but still,
No, but they're still
catching up.
I mean, they're still coming out of that, right? Like, I mean, it's not like they're full force in production mode, you know. And so that supply chain, with that's the biggest issue, that broken supply chain.
Well, the other thing that happened is they scrapped a whole bunch of the tanker ships.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They just said, "Oh, we don't need these anymore. They're costly to have around. They're worth more as scrap." Mm-hmm. They scrapped them.
Yeah.
And then to build them takes a heck of a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, ultimately, you can increase the interest rates to 10%, but if you still have less goods, right? If you have less goods, that means that the cost per any of those goods is going to go up. Mm-hmm. And so now what's happened is there's a lull in the market, and banks have to make banks make money by, this is why it's called currency. It needs to move, right? And so people are going to wait and see what happens. And so you're going to see a lot of these banks, like, it just takes another big bank to collapse.
Well, there was two. Signature Bank went too, but
Signature Bank is not like a Bank of America.
No.
Yeah, if you take like a city or a Bank of America, you're going through Armageddon.
Well, like we talked about this a bit. We just actually did a video today. Like, there would be a flight to safety. Yeah. There'd be a flight to Citibank, JP Morgan, those places, like away from the smaller banks, and that's why they had to stop the contagion. That's why the Fed backed it and said, "No, we're going to cover all deposits for all banks. Don't worry about it."
No. Only 200K.
No. They came out last night.
6:15 last night.
And
6:15?
Yeah, and said we're going to cover, because Roku had $500 million.
You know what? It's okay. We just print more.
Well, it's so funny. Like, that's what he's saying, and I'm like,
quantitative easing, baby.
I mean, it is a bit like that, but again, if they had let that fail and say Roku has $500 million in that bank, right, that $500 million in the bank, now Roku shares are hit. And how many other tech companies
it's going to be like a domino effect.
It's a domino effect. So what were they going to do?
Yeah.
The majority of the capital that was being held there was all startup companies, right? Tech companies, because it's Silicon Valley Bank. SVB. But that's the biggest thing, is that they want to stop the contagion, right? And they're plugging a hole, and they're fine with that. And it's funny. I've been reading this book called The Deficit Myth, and so you talked lever with the interest rate and whatever, and okay, let me ask you this: do you think a deficit is bad?
No, not necessarily.
Right. So there's like
the whole monetary system is deficit.
Well, that's true. So the premise of this book is basically that we look at the deficit, and most people look at the deficit like our household finances, right? If we run a deficit, we're gonna owe more money, and we have to pay that money back, right? Whereas the U.S. government, Canada, because again, if they borrow in Canadian dollars or U.S. dollars, right, their own currency, well, they can never be in default, right? It's the countries that do borrow in U.S. dollars, print their own currency, and that's when they get in trouble, right? So the U.S. basically, the lever is, yes, interest rates, but interest rates will affect supply and demand side of household goods, right? Like, people will buy less. They'll buy less cars, less houses, and less renos, whatever, right?
Less vacations.
Less vacations. Yeah. So that will affect it, right? Yeah. At some point, it will affect it. And it does take 6 to 12 months for those really to be felt, right? Yet, and on the U.S. side, what they're saying is that the spending should be to target that inflation rate, because they've said they want to inflate the economy. Yeah. So that during COVID, they just increased spending so much.
Well, yeah,
and there was no place for it to go.
They held the interest rate for the lowest in history for more than 2 years. Yeah. And in Europe, you had negative rates.
Oh yeah, you had to pay to keep your money at the bank. I mean, we do anyways, but so it's just, I find it fascinating that, and like, these are very smart people, obviously, the PhDs, whatever. But when you hear of the government arguing, about like, oh, we got to cut this spending, cut that spending. Well, maybe, maybe, but it's in the term of they're doing household finances.
Yeah.
Where it should be, no, it's in the term of how much lever do we want to give? Do we need to cut back some jobs in public sector? Because that's a huge driver, right? Do we need to cut back, or do we need to create some jobs here or do this here, right? And not that we need to balance a budget.
Yeah.
Because I think that's gone out the window. Like you're never going to see a balanced budget.
Yeah, well, it's very similar to real estate investors. We want to use debt, right? We want to leverage debt, and this is what the government is doing. As long as, the overprinting of money. I mean, I think that then we become, like we devalue the currency.
Well, I don't think we do.
Well, I think.
Here's the thing: they especially the U.S., Canada not so much.
Yeah.
But they export their inflation around the world. They export it to China. They export it to anybody.
You're saying because people want the currency.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is we have a global perceived value on that currency.
Yeah.
And the reason why they removed the gold standard in 1971 was because people made a run for the bank and they all wanted their gold back.
Oh yeah,
right?
countries were calling it in.
Yeah.
Ship me billions of dollars worth of gold, and the U.S. were like,
because everyone lost
shove
everyone lost the confidence because they were losing the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And so
and the oil crisis. And they had held the dollar price of gold artificially low.
Yeah.
So everyone was like, oh, I'll take gold. If they had put it at $400 an ounce or whatever it was back then, everyone would like, oh, here's gold. Give us dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm saying is like it's a value perception based on global confidence over that dollar versus their own currencies, their own asset classes, right? So the second you start to lose that, the second there's some sort of turmoil or where the U.S. is going to look weak, people now are going to go to other asset classes, other currencies to offset because everyone's operating based on the emotions of what everyone else is doing, right? Yeah. Everyone moves in flocks, right? It's like mob mentality. It's like, get out of the U.S. dollar, right? The reason why people are in U.S. dollars right now is because everything else is like, not doing very well, right?
It's flight to safety. It's why the Canadian dollar's down, right?
Yeah.
Plus, they have publicly stated they're going to keep raising interest rates, and the people who hold U.S. dollars are making interest on that money, as opposed to holding in Canadian dollars, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to raise it more.
So that's an interesting point. You don't think that printing money creates inflation?
It depends. Mm-hmm. Well, look at 08, right? 08, 09, they printed a crap ton of money.
Not as much as the 2020.
I would wager that percentage-wise it was the same or higher.
Okay. Well, in 2000, so what the mistake in 2008, in my opinion, my humble opinion. Who am I? We're just people on a podcast here. You know what I mean?
We're just a couple of guys hitting the mics.
I say that all the time. I'm just this guy on YouTube, sitting in my office in Oakville. I don't know crap anyways. But
what I love about this though is that I've got two guys sitting next to me. I've got 5 years in this industry, and I've got 20 and 23 years respectively, or 23 and 20 respectively. I'm just soaking all this in because this is actually a really great debate.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
It's a conversation.
And it's a conversation,
it's
and it's a real conversation. But by no means am I an economist or anything like that. It's just one guy's opinion. In 08, the decision to print money, I believe it was the wrong decision. Some of those companies that were
too big to fail
should have failed, right? Because what we essentially did is kick the can down the road, and you just prolong the inevitable, right? Some of these companies may have to fail at some point, right? Like the pain is going to come at some point.
At some point, they're going to fail.
Yeah.
Right. And so they let the bank fail, the bondholders are wiped out. The shareholders are wiped out. Maybe they're wiped out. But the depositors are going to get their money because what they've done is they said you will guarantee it, and then we'll recoup from selling assets.
Yeah.
And those asset sales will go back to pay off the depositors, and we guarantee it. But the difference between 08 and like COVID times with the money was, well, two things. 08, there was huge job losses, right? So people weren't making as much money. People made more money in COVID than ever, right? And in COVID, they gave directly to people. They gave them money directly to people, and they went out and spent it or saved it till now when they're spending it. In 08, there was a credit crunch in the States. I mean, you were buying down there.
Yeah.
If you had cash, you were king.
Yeah.
If you didn't have cash, you were dead.
Yeah. But even here in Canada, there was, for apartment. So I was buying apartment buildings in Canada. There was just no money available. Private money just disappeared. I mean, everyone was scared. I remember we used to go to these big networking events, standing room only, right? 2007, everybody and their grandmother wanted to be an investor. And then I remember going back to those same events, like 75 of the people were gone. 75% of the people were gone. It was just like the multifamily guys. Hey, where did everybody go, right? And it's like the flippers were out, the wholesalers, all the quick money. All those people were kind of like either stopped or just took a break or they went under,
Well, it's so funny though. Like in Canada, we didn't have it. Like in the multifamily world, commercial we did, but on residential, everybody woke up 6 months later and was like, "Oh, I still have a job. I can still go get a mortgage, and rates are super cheap."
Yeah.
Right, and so people started buying again. 6 months later, we had a 6 month dip. And away we went.
Well, for multifamily, it was a little bit different. Where people, there was just no money.
Yeah.
So my favorite part of that era was the creativity, right? The vendor takebacks, the agreements for sale. That's how I basically read this stuff in a book, And I remember in 06, 07, I remember talking about VTBs. They're like, "Get out of here, kid! No one does this, right?" And I remember I had to carry this book with me. I'm like, "Yes, so it says so in this book." and then all of a sudden, because I've been learning, it's almost like you're at the gym. And 08, 09 was the Olympic event, and I've been training, creative, and people weren't being creative because they had more options, and then all of a sudden people didn't have options. And now I'm
seller financing agreement for sale, but we see that I'm seeing that now.
Yeah, this is the time. This is 2023. We're back to those beautiful days where people are flexible, things can happen, and I believe I don't expect for real apartment buildings or multifamilies to come down in price. I expect for people to be more flexible to make things happen.
I'm seeing a lot of those come in now through the brokerage, where a lot of offers are coming in with a lot of creativity, VTBs that are available. I mean, this is just opportunity, right? It's about understanding though what your takeout is on that and how you actually exit out of that at stabilization of that property. But we're seeing it again, and that's opportunity for people. You're coming to deals with less money down out of your own pocket. You're actually creating these, right? Finding a way of how to make them work. So all of this data from the cyclical data of actually going back and seeing all of this happen in the past. I mean, it's right in front of us again.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And my only thing is it going to be shorter this time than last time?
I think so. I'm selling 6 to 12 months.
Good point.
I'm serious. 6 to 12 months is going to set the stage for the people that take massive action now. And then you'll see throughout the next 5 years, you're going to see a massive wealth transfer. But it's not going to be, if you wait 2 years from now, you're going to get the opportunities. You have to get the ball rolling today because it's going to set you up for what's coming. Baby boomers are exiting the space, and whether by force or by
crook,
by natural causes or whatever. And because there was such a lack of financial literacy in our culture, right? A lot of these portfolios, their kids don't want these portfolios.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
like-
so true.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot.
In
where,
business too, right?
Oh,
even
lots of businesses, like where
Yeah.
the owner's retiring, kids don't want it.
Yeah.
Oh,
They don't want to run it, and there's good businesses for sale right now
yeah.
too.
Massive opportunity. And so I think that in the next 5 years, provided that you took action this year, you're going to see a massive wealth transfer, the biggest in history, I believe.
What are we going to wager on it?
Well, we can. What do you want? What do you think?
Yo, just an FYI, Alfonso, a few episodes ago, there's a very large wager on the table right now, so I'm just going to leave this one between you and Mark. I'll let you guys wager on this one.
So I mean, it's a 5-year bet. We'll just make it. We'll just make a nice dinner at Victoria Steakhouse.
Oh, then in that case, I'm in.
Hey, by the way, thank you so much, Victoria. That was. We're talking about in Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
Man, it was. I had a really good time there.
Yeah, I'm glad. I didn't even know it was your wife's birthday.
I know it. It was just. It was.
that's
It was.
awesome.
It was. It just worked out that way. It was really nice, and we
a
had
great
a good
spot.
time. So thank you once again. But
much
yeah,
better.
dinner.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to shake you guys on that one.
I was, but hold on. What's the stake? So in 5 years
Biggest
from now,
wealth transfer.
Okay. So in 6 years we'll review. We'll
Yeah.
go back to this podcast.
I was only
and-
here for the dinner.
And then if there was no massive wealth transfer,
Well, you said the biggest in history.
okay, biggest in history. Okay,
So
let's do it.
yeah, on a per capita basis.
I'm in.
All right.
I'm in.
I mean, the worst case scenario, I buy you a dinner and
Yeah.
you buy me a dinner.
I
And
was
Rob
gonna
just
say-
tags along.
Yeah, I'd love to tag along. Yeah, for sure. I
You
think
win, but you shook my hand. But which side are you on?
I don't know. I'm just there for the dinner,
he's,
like I said.
he's on the side of
I
dinner.
love Victoria's. I don't know how
Listen.
many times I've been there.
Listen, if I'm right, and whoever is watching this, whenever this is rolling or whenever this is going to be playing, if I'm right, what side of that wealth transfer do you want to be on? That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm not saying there won't be a big wealth transfer.
For sure. It's just the biggest in history.
I'm just arguing that it might be smaller than other times.
Okay. So look, either it's a
It's
Small
it's
wealth
a good
transfer?
Well, no, it
or
could,
biggest in history.
it could be big.
Yeah.
It just might not be the biggest in history.
Okay, so either way, we all agree that there's going to be something happening down
yeah.
the pipeline.
It's already
It's
happened.
a great opportunity.
And so
It's right in
for
front
the
of us.
people watching this, the question is, on what side of that opportunity do you want to be on?
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to sit by and watch while everyone is, putting in the work, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what happened in 2020. I was on my YouTube channel. I was sharing all these things. I was doing walkthroughs. I was buying apartment buildings. I went back and I was talking to them on my channel, and people were on my comments are like, "It's COVID, you're not even social distancing, and you should have been wearing your mask." And when you were talking to that person, like people were focused on the wrong thing.
Yep.
And what people should have been focused on is like, why is this individual? Like, why all of a sudden this massive action being taken? Because between April of 2020 to just to the end of August, we bought more real estate than we ever bought in the history of our company. In that window, right? Of course, we continue buying, but that window was like, I don't know. I felt like compelled. I felt like I was like in a trance. You know what I mean?
And from that, like following that window post August, it was strategic buying, though, right? Like
Strategic buying
was
and
the difference.
strategic selling.
Yeah.
Because we created a massive liquidity event in our business where we were now for the first time able to release some of the ugly ducklings in the portfolio, and level up to bigger deals, newer deals, leaner and clean. Everything as a result of that
5-month period,
yeah,
4-month period.
Yeah, but it set me up for life. It set me up for life, and that's what I'm looking to do again, because I'm going to level up again.
So, Alfonso, let's talk for a second about those that didn't take advantage of that in 2020.
Yeah.
What's the best way to prepare for that now, seeing what's in front of us based on the data? How do they go about that? What's your advice there?
You don't have time to. You don't have time for a learning curve. go to people that have done this before. Go to people that have the results that you're looking for. Get educated. You don't have time for mistakes. I'm saying 6 to 12 months. There's no time to learn and grow and take your time. You have to make strategic moves, but they have to be the right ones. Because the mistakes can cost you. And so that's what I would say to someone that is like right now you're like wondering what to do. You're watching this podcast. I would say find someone that has done it before, that has been through multiple corrections, right? And they will tell you how to adjust. They just got to follow what all the wealthy people are doing.
That's kind of the learning curve itself, is actually doing with somebody that's taking action.
Yeah.
So you can in turn go do it yourself, build stronger relationships, build more strategic relationships.
And it doesn't have to be me, right?
Yeah,
I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but it has to be someone. Look for someone that has been there before.
Yeah. And you're saying that because, I don't think we've brought it up yet. If you listen to our last podcast, Thomas Larini was on. He's one of your partners in the U.S. that teaches your course. But you have a organization called Wealth Genius.
Yes.
Right? And it's now over 600 members in the U.S. and Canada. It's growing phenomenally quickly.
Crazy.
And
Crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I can tell you why, if you really want to know why.
I'd like to know. I'd like to hear your.
Is this the secret sauce? This is the secret sauce that everybody.
You want to know the secret sauce of why it's growing so
hear it.
quickly? Because this man is on the road 24/7, banging the drum.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like this weekend I brought a couple guests and they were like, I don't feel like I'm being sold to. I feel like, when Alfonso says he loves me, he's like, they were like, I think he actually does. I think he really wants me to succeed.
It's a sense of community, and you actually care about the people, right? Like,
it's important.
What you're building there is something really, really special.
I love this. No one succeeds alone. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer that the gap between where you are and where you want to go in life is people, right?
Yep.
The getting people engaged in activities, supporting people, building people, encouraging people, and that's been the philosophy of my entire life. The quality of people that I have around me is the reason why I'm here today. Right.
When did you make that decision to create this community?
Well, I've been doing this for over 15 years. When I was 30 years old, I was financially free, right? And like I shared with you before, I've gone through this journey, living on the streets, panhandling for change, war-torn, like all these different experiences in my life, which I now value because they've made me who I am. And so during my 20s, I worked really hard. I built my company. I almost lost everything, but I was able to recover, and I got into real estate. And then by the time I was 30, I'd sold my company. But during that time in the trenches, I remember going on vacation, and you've been on a resort, right? 4 square meals a day. You drink all week, and then you're like at the end of the week, you're exhausted and you're going home. And I remember I would work so hard just for that 1 week. And the cab driver on the way to the airport was like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I live in Canada." And he's like, "Wow, all these people come here from Canada. It's so crazy. They work all year long just to spend 1 week here, and then go back and save their money again so they can come back for another week." He's like, "I don't know why people don't just stay here." Yeah. Right? And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
That sounds really good. And, I would have this fantasy of what my life would look like when I was financially free. And I remember going to Bed Bath and Beyond, and the ones the little pictures you put in your bathroom. Mm-hmm. Live a life that you don't need a vacation from. Basically, live a life where you're on vacation all the time.
And it's by your design.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa. I'm like blown away. That's the life that I want. And then that day came. 30 years old. I sold my company. I have my real estate portfolio. I don't have to work another day in my life. And so guess what I did? I booked a trip to the resort. 2 weeks.
Nice.
I'm saying, I'm going to really, now I have all the time.
Live it up.
Live it up. And the first week is just like any other week. But the second week, my friend, or who's ever watching, if you've ever done this, you'll know that the first day of that second week, everything happens all over again.
Yeah.
And I was miserable. I was the only person on that beach, miserable. I thought I wanted a life. I was going to sit on the beach for the rest of my life, but I realized that, you know what, life is about fulfillment. And whatever fantasy I had, that's not what I wanted to do with my life. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? And so at that time, I made a decision, on that beach. I said, I want to spend my entire life helping people, right? And helping people get to this point where they realize that whatever fantasy they had while they were in the trenches, whatever they thought they wanted, that's not even the thing that they wanted. And most people are going to look for fulfillment in life, and they're going to do amazing things. And so I said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life helping people achieve financial freedom. And so that's how it all started, like 15 years ago. And, I was like, workshops. I started doing workshops. I think I was telling you, I had a workshop. 2 people showed up. And guess what? I delivered for those 2 people. And those 2 people were so fulfilled and happy, they brought 2 more. And now there's 4 people, and now 8 people. And then all of a sudden, in 2015, I started training for other companies, and they brought me all over North America. And I was happy, like I'm helping people, and I'm traveling, and I'm working for other educational platforms. And then COVID happened, and my entire calendar was full from 2020 all the way to 2021. I know exactly all my speaking dates. And then it was instantly erased. And I said, you know what? This is probably the time for me to do something. This is probably a sign. And that's where I said, I'm available. I did this, right? I did this. I said, I'm willing to help people during this time. And people came in droves, right? Last year at this time, we were about 100 members. And now we're at 600, wow. Right? We created a system. I brought all the right people in place, and the reason why people are excited about what we do is because we're offering something completely different. And so what he was saying, I'm all over the country. He's not joking, right? I feel like
see the schedule.
I'm possessed. I love what I do. I love helping people. And I love people. I truly love people, and I want to see them succeed. And I know that if they were just given a chance, if they can just see what they're capable of, if we can tap into more of our potential, it'd be like Renaissance on Earth, right? And so that's kind of my mission. That's what drives me to be all over the place.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. That you there's multiple personalities that you're expressing there in terms, and in a good way, of course. Right?
Are you saying he has multiple personality
no,
disorder or something?
Like
Hey,
you're literally,
this is angry Rob coming out now.
No, you're collaborating, right? You're bringing people together into a room where a sense of, fulfillment. You're talking about having a meaning, like things like that. You don't know what you don't know, and when you can get in a room with somebody that says that's okay. That's a beautiful part about real estate investors and events, right? I remember going to my first event, and I was like, shirts and ties, Lambos, Ferraris. Am I even going to fit in here? I walked in, and everybody was just like, hey, how's it going? Right? And I love what you're building there, Alfonso. I think that's absolutely phenomenal.
And no one's seen me in a Ferrari. Yeah. Those things, I don't want to attract people based on those things.
Agreed.
In hindsight, when I look at 50 to 60 years or 100 years or even 200 years where people are like, who was this Alfonso guy, Godfather? I don't want them to look me up and see the doors or cars or anything. I want people to see all the people that I've helped. That's ultimately will be my legacy, right? It's all the people that I've helped, and that's what fuels me. Not the cars, not Ferraris, Like, the thing about a Ferrari is, like, when you can buy 5, you probably don't want one.
Agreed.
Or you want one, but I mean, everyone has different vices that they like, that's okay. But I don't want to attract people just for that, And
there has to be a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
Right? You're not chasing the money.
Yeah.
You're actually chasing the purpose.
Yeah.
Right? To deliver.
Yeah.
Oh, he's chasing the his obituary.
exactly. You know, so yeah, that's a pretty good point. You know, at the end of the day, what do you want people to say about you when you're gone?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the dash?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Alfonso, man, thank you so much for coming in. And I know, again, we talked about this. You're running events all over, all the time. You got an expo coming up that anybody can attend, correct? Because some of these are members only.
Yes.
But you have an expo that anybody can attend. Why don't you give us some details on that?
GTA, go to Eventbrite, look for Real Estate Wealth Expo, and what you're going to find is, you know, we're going to talk about lots of strategies: U.S. investing, land development, multifamily, wholesaling, and
Alberta?
What's that?
Alberta?
Well, you know what? You want to come to the expo? You want to come speak at the expo?
100%.
Okay, so there you go.
What an opportunity!
Right here, happen live, right?
There we go.
And so we want to talk about all these different opportunities. May 5th, 6th, and 7th that weekend, and you can find us on Eventbrite. But you know, I know your show is global. You know,
it's true.
And so there's chances are I will be coming to your city. And so just jump on Eventbrite. I mean, we have dates in the U.S. We have dates all over Canada.
If they look up Wealth Genius on
Wealth
Eventbrite?
Genius or Alfonso in their city, or you go to the Eventbrite, you'll see all of our events. I mean, last year we did about 96 events, virtually and in person. And so, you know, nothing's going to change this year. And so we will be in a city near you. If you resonate with anything I have to say, hey, you know what? Spending 2 days with me, it's not bad.
It's not bad.
What's the worst thing that happens? You meet some great people?
Oh, yeah.
You might learn a thing or two, too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Alfonso, thank you so much for dropping in. Really appreciate you taking time on your wife's birthday to come in and spend time with two ugly guys like us. And yeah, I got to do the outro. All right. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe. If you guys are listening to this on Spotify or Apple or any of the other podcast places, drop us a comment and a 5-star review and share this with all your friends so they can enjoy us as well.
Thanks a lot for coming in today, Alfonso. This was a great time. Really appreciate you spending it with us.
I had an amazing time here.